If BDD, Faker, or Chovy were having the split that Knight was having, it would be heralded as the greatest year of any mid ever. Right, hot take point made. League of Legends edition returns. And good news, the fans have generated the spiciest topic for this one. So if you'd like to submit a topic, you just subscribe to Last Nation Discord. There's a channel there, LOL Hot Takes. Submit your take there. Obviously, buyer beware. If you say a shit take, you might get roasted. You might get mocked. There might be all sorts of outrageous things said about you, your intelligence. But that's just par for the course, you know, when in Rome. So here is the fan take. The fan take is by Talon, and he says, if BDD, Faker, or Chovy were having the split that Knight was having, it would be heralded as the greatest year of any mid ever. Knight is averaging 7 kills a game with an 8.7 KDA. The second highest is Viper at 5 kills per game averaged. He played 16 champions this split with an 800 DPM average. That's all the stats for the nerds, but the true test is the eye test. And Knight is showing why he is the best team fighting mid laner of all time. The only reason people are not hyping him to the moon is everyone is afraid to hype up the LPL after years of failing to win worlds. But this is a truly generational split and year from Knight, and cowardice shouldn't stop us talking about it. BLG will win worlds. Gentlemen, I just put that. I told you it was spicy, so I just put that before you. Zaboutine, I feel like I need you to come in first on this because you already know Kira is just like music to my ear. That's probably Kira's fake account, isn't it? And also, I want to get Zaboutine in on this first.
I feel like the problem is when you include the old time, right? Like there is different era in the game. I feel like it is very hard to put any player above 2016, 2017 Faker. Because I still believe like he's probably like in a league of its own in terms of level versus the competition. You're already making the grimace. I feel like this is for sure one of the best individual splits of all time. I still feel like, I don't know. The problem I have is aside from like BLG, everybody's playing like shit worldwide. Like very few teams have very consistent macro. I see very random fights, vision control. It's very hesitant. No matter who plays, I've seen like I was watching some of the LPL playoff as well as like the LCK playoff, and I was extremely surprised to see the same mistakes. I can see like an MCoy or a Carmine Corp do. No team is playing very, very good. I just think that Knight is really playing on par with what he's been doing, but he is part of probably the most functional and the only functional team of the world right now. I don't think maybe HLE on some regard can be a comparable, but yes, he's playing amazing. But I think people really disregard the collective approach when they speak about BLG. They only speak about the individuals. But I do believe that the work that's done by Shun, for instance, and the general pressure the lane pressure that they have, the year of On is absolutely amazing. I don't know, like everybody's just forgetting that On is just probably the second best support in the world.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, and I feel like yes, Knight, when given space, is playing amazing. But I feel like if you gave such a functional team to many other mid laners, they will probably play comparable. At least I'm speaking for the top 4, like the top 4 of mid laners that I do know.
Like some of the names he just mentioned, Chovy, BDD.
Yeah, Chovy or players like this. I think they do that. Okay. Whereas I do believe, I think it's the first year, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my personal opinion. LCK has never played as bad as it does when it comes to the collective play. Yep. In history, like I have to go back to 2018, the dark year of the LCK, to see this level of mistakes. So I do believe that Knight outshines everyone in China by being the best collective team in the world in a slightly worse region than LCK, while LCK teams are shitting the bed, so it looks better. I feel like the best player in history will have to make the other best players in history look like fools to really ascend to the level of like, okay, it's non-discutable. For instance, Faker in 2023 at Worlds, 2024 Faker Worlds is non-debatable. Like the level he rises to actually outplay your faces is just I can't just go.
No, by the way, I'm with you, Zaboutine. I'll echo what you're saying. No, listen, I'll echo what you're saying. If people remember, 2024 was the one where instead of dodging each other, Chovy played Faker directly, and everyone remembers. I think it's still baller. That clip where Faker was like perfectly microing on Cyber,
game.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Like that's one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen. It's very good. Yeah.
I just feel like the context in which we are picking this take is a little short-sighted. That's. I think all the elements are backing Knight for the moment, but we are taking it in a part of the year. Like we haven't played MSI, we haven't played EWC. We only have international tournament that lasted a week. There is still Worlds to play, and I feel saying, it is the best player in history out of these data. I can take Gen.G. He was already Knight, but Knight from Gen.G can speak face to face with Knight currently. So I don't think he's the current Knight is the best of all time. I will dismiss that take, but he's part of the best in terms of comparison to the average of the best mid laners.
Okay. Go on then.
So but no, I'm good to go. So here's the thing, right? I actually agree. Here's the thing. I actually agree with Zaboutine at the end point, but how I get to the conclusion is a little bit different. I actually think this doesn't compare. Here's the thing. Knight is like, this is a mega year, and statistically he's been like crazy, but this is one of the worst years LPL for mids. And if Knight didn't just like cave them, so I'm going to give you, there's basically, if you're like a Knight, like I've watched as much Knight as me, there's like 3 years that are like better than this. You have 2023 Knight, which is the Gen.G year. You have 2021 Spring Knight, and then you have the one that didn't make it to Worlds, which is 2019 Summer Knight, the one that failed to make it to Worlds because of, right? They're all probably better than this Knight because if you go, let me just list off some of the names he was playing against, like Rookie, Doinby, good version of Xiaohu, Scout, Zeka, or like Zika, like the Korean one before he went.
You could
back
argue
to
there was the
Korea.
best mids in the world at that time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mega.
It was unbelievable. Outside of the fact that like Chovy wasn't there and BDD wasn't there, it literally had like you could go probably to about 7th place, and it like 7th is like Yagao, and then 8th is like Jie, like who are like good like mid
these are all world's players. So,
here's the thing of like, this is my problem in terms of like it being like the best. Like the second of all is not in Korea, and on the aggregate, forget who you're playing against, the teams that you have to beat, because like Knight is like a super hard carry like player, and Knight's thing isn't just like being better than his like opponent, it's like just like caving in entire like teams, and it was like pretty close this season. The big thing about this season for Knight is that you can basically count the number of bad games you had on like one hand, and you might not even need that hand. You can probably chop off a couple of fingers, right? He was unbelievably consistent. Like even when like On and June were inting into like WE and like looked like they didn't want to try and win the LPL, Knight was basically good in all of the games except from one where he was like average and still gave them a chance. That being said, you need to understand how good, and this is where like I'll screw my face up. I actually think the 2016 version of like Faker to 2017 Faker is a little bit overrated. I think because like for example, I think a lot of people forget when he goes to like MSI, Perks is like solo killing them and stuff, like in lane and stuff, and that like period of like Faker kind of like gets glazed a bit, where he's like really good domestically but not towards the end. I just think like you've got stuff like Chovy, 23 and the MSI Chovy. I think you can take like the KTBDD regular season where he literally has no help. Like actual none. Like at least Knight's people playing with Knight are like decent. Yeah. And then the other one is like 2014 Faker, which I think is just the winter player. 2014 Faker, I think, is the best player because it is. The LCK literally still has all the best players in the world, and Faker is so much better still than everyone. It's like comical. Like the final is against Samsung with Daddy, and yes, that team is a little bit still dysfunctional, but it's not even close. Like it's so crazy. They like destroy KT bullets, they destroy Shield, they absolutely wreck everybody, and they've got the biggest target on their back because they've just won Worlds, and nobody can even touch them, by the way. He is just so unbelievable. He can pick everything. That for me is the best player I've ever seen. And I know, like going into Worlds and stuff. And I just don't think like Knight is, like what you're saying, Knight is that much head and shoulders above everyone else. I think it helps, like you said, like Zaboutine was saying, Chovy's like came down a bit and wasn't as killer in playoffs, and BDD came down a bit and wasn't as killer in playoffs, and the general mid lane stuff isn't as good. So yeah, it's like a super great year, and it kind of looks crazy. But once you apply some of the context, I think it cools off like a little bit, and that's even coming from the CEO himself.
Right, I've got a few angles there. So a lot of it will be echoing some of the things you said, but I'll say it in different ways. So first of all, let's just be real at the very beginning. This is in the LPL, not the LCK. Right, I always tell people the reason I think the LPL is the best league in the world is actually more like how many really good teams there are, not like how good is the best team. Like, I think if you want to say how good the best team, that's why the LCK is considered the gold standard, I'm afraid. It's even a league that this is why this year is a very good year to make this point. The points you guys are making, not the one this guy's making. Normally in the LCK, it's an incredibly top-heavy league where the team that's number one is usually the best team in the world, shitting on everyone, even the teams in the LCK. Like think how crazy it is that like the T1 teams that win worlds are never even coming close anymore to winning the LCK. That's how crazy the average level is. So unfortunately, you're already going to have a hard time convincing someone dominating the LPL is better than dominating in the LCK. And then add in, as you guys say, the difference is the best years to make that case in the LPL were about like 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. That's when the LPL was super stacked, especially because people do forget a lot of the really great exports of Korea have come back since then. Like, at the time, you still had all those players playing over in the, including a lot of those mid laners that won worlds, the Koreans that won worlds. So, unfortunately, this also isn't, I agree with Kira, you can also make a case some of the other Knights were actually better even back then just because of who they were playing against, and they were super insane back then. Then also, I do think it's a problem. This is a tie-on from the fact the LCK sucks. Do you know what I think is another reason why no one's like, even though I've said on SI, I think Knight is the best player in the world, the reason why if someone came to me and said, well, I think it's Keria, I can't say no, is because here's the problem if you have there for your Knight. He's got the G2 2019 problem. Oh, you won MSI, congrats. Who'd you play in the final? Oh, that's a bomber, isn't it? Playing Team Liquid in G2 isn't the same as playing like fucking Gen.G, bro. The real problem there, believe it or not, is I know it's Gen.G's fault, but this is the point we're making. Gen.G isn't as good as past years. If Gen.G had gone to the final, by the way, and BLG had beaten Gen.G and Chovy had lost tonight, I think people would actually say what this fan says. They'd say this is the best year of Knight and Knight is the best player in the world. But unfortunately, because he got to play G2 for whatever reasons, mainly because of what Skewmon did in the jungle, it means that unfortunately that just isn't as cool a person to beat. I'll give you the analogy, right? I actually personally, this is a weird side tangent, it's not a big deal, it's about boxing, right? In boxing, I do think people slightly overrate Mike Tyson because even though he was an absolute demon when he was young, he had a lot of his career at the end where he was a massive box office draw, but he wasn't that great anymore and his head had gone, hadn't it? Right? If you ever look at their actual resumes, I think personally that Lennox Lewis was a better boxer. Lennox Lewis basically had like a bazillion years he was at the top, he won every belt he could win, but his problem, if people don't know, is he mostly fought the other great fighters like when they were older or it was the end of their careers or they weren't in their peak. And so the reason why a lot of people don't say he's the GOAT is because part of being the GOAT usually is what Zaboutine's point is. It's like you've got to really beat the other people when they're in their peak because that's a great way with... Notice, here's the problem this guy had. He just did all the stats part. The stats are great, but then obviously we always say about stats, well, what was the context? If the eye test, which is the ultimate thing, if the eye test was, like I just said with Zaboutine, I'll give it up to people who are Faker fans. Faker definitely was not a better player in 2024 the whole year than Chovy. He wasn't even close. But if you look at that World Series, he was better, especially in 1 or 2 of the games. He actually even pulled off literal plays, like I just referenced, that we can all instantly see in our brain that were unbelievable. They were mega. That was playing against someone else who's also really good. And you're doing some like, there's this Fakira, you're doing the fucking Flash versus Bisu, where it's like you're both doing the perfect micro. I just beat you doing that. That's what you want. That is the shit we really want if you want to be the best ever. Then also I'll throw in a couple of other angles, which is, even though this is unfair, unfortunately, if you're someone like, I would say, Faker in his prime, and even modern day Chovy, we also give you some credit because it looks like by A/B testing that you're doing some of the macro as well, right? Unfortunately, that element's never even been shaded into Knight's game. I agree, he's mega at team fighting. He's a really good laner. He's mega on shot. He's never really really had any extra intangibles, though. It's never even been spoken about. He doesn't seem like he's a draft wizard. He doesn't seem like he's the guy who comes in, guys, I've thought. He just seems like he's just the best player in mid lane. So even though I'm sort of with you in spirit, I think he could be the best mid laner ever. I also don't know that I would ever give him it. Like, I actually do think there's a better case to be made that it was Chovy in some of the years he didn't win Worlds. He just didn't win Worlds. And then lastly, as in that just answered the question for all of us. If Chovy still doesn't get to be the best because he hasn't won Worlds, you have to win Worlds then, mate. I know you almost did, but I'm sorry, you have to actually do it. If you do it, by the way, I can tell you, as much as you think this is a hot take, next year, that won't be a hot take anymore. If Knight wins Worlds, every pleb fan will magically now say he was the best. So it can turn around real quick. And then lastly, all I'll say is this. The point Zaboutine made is also a very shrewd one. He's also doing it with an insane super team. Like, you can make the case the worst player on his team is Viper, for fuck's sake, bro. Like, I agree with Zaboutine. Shun and Honor having their best ever years. They are actually contenders for best in their role. So I would just put it this way. Here's why it's not the end of the world that he's not the greatest mid laner. The fact where even haters allow him into a conversation with the greatest LCK mids ever is crazy respect. I can tell you, Zhao, who was never allowed in that conversation. Cool was an afterthought. All these players, they joke about it's why Monty would never give up to the LPL, because he used to watch it and just go, but they just win with Korean solos. What is this? Like, a Korean mid laner wins it. At that point in time, that's like when the LCS used to talk shit to the EU LCS and go, hey, we are beating you. It's like, bro, your mid laners Jensen and Bjergsen, they're our players, you dickhead. How are you going to have that player carry and then tell me you're better than me? He's my brother, basically, you idiot. So I think, to sum it all up, I think we're all in agreement here. It's not a terrible hot take. As a hot take, you actually had grounds to make it. Like you say, the stats alone, his raw stats look awesome. But I just don't think it checks out. And also, I agree with Kira. If you've seen the best of Knight ever, one of the actual frustrating things about Knight is, if anything, some of his other years were slept on, and so that makes it people look like, oh, it's only when he wins the trophies that he becomes the best. Like, I actually do think also, if you look how scuffed some of his old rosters are, I agree with him. That's why the 2019 zone's bonkers. Go look at who his fucking teammates are there, mate. It isn't like the world 11 he has now. This is unbelievable, mate. Like, this is nuts. So yeah, I'm with you. Right. Who wants to go next? Is it you, Zaboutine, if you've got your hot take?
I have I had a hard time picking a take. So this one is about being a GOAT of a more minor region at a specific position. Buckle your belt, guys. Dokla is the best United States nationality, American, right? It is important, so you remove Canadian.
Oh, okay, USA only, right? Okay.
Right, because you have licorice and stuff.
Oh, right, okay. Zion Spartan, all that, yeah, sure.
He's on Verge, so I'm gonna say it because this is a hot take. Dokla is the top lane GOAT of NA.
By the way, quick caveat, I just need people to know this as he proceeds on. You know how Peter Dunn...
player of mine.
Exactly. Dokkan did play for Optic, people have to know. So I just needed everyone to know out the game. Okay, go. Now go.
Okay, so I've been digging because, I don't really follow LCS anymore. Okay. So when I get to prepare for MSI broadcasts, I get to see who's qualified. And I see Dokla again, and I'm like, isn't it like the fourth or fifth time I see him just come back from, bumfuck nowhere and just play an international tournament after winning something? And so I've been comparing, guys. I've done my math. So who is in the race for the ghost of NA top laner? So you have 4 names. You have Bulls, Darshan, Hunter, and Dokla. Bulls and Hunter have been playing with the most legendary roster of NA. 2013, 2014 C9 and 2016, 2017 TSM are considered probably like the state of the art of what NA has produced over the years. Still imports. And then I think that Darshan, while having a strong resume, he has won during this little era where CLG beat TSM in the final and had this run to the MSI final. I don't remember if it was him. I don't think it was him at the final.
It was.
Was he? Okay. So there is that run, but after that, he fell off pretty hard. And now you look at Dokla. Now he's on 3 winning runs with 3 different teams. One of them is getting out of group stage with NA on one of the single worst historic year of the region. Getting to beat the G2 that was largely dominating Europe with Contracts, Palafox, FBI, and Ignore. And he has qualified then with Lion twice. beating C9 and now Team Liquid. So he has now 3 trophies of 3 different splits with, I would say, two different rosters, one of each is extremely low on the paper, while his, I would say, competitors for the title of GOAT have been playing with the most legendary roster of all time. And he has been ditched by many teams, just making it back to the top, the front stage with just sheer work.
Yes.
For that reason, I think that because he has never been just slotting in a purely winning team, but he had to kind of make the losing brackets of the NA. I'm gonna put him a notch above the 2 others and consider him the GOAT of NA top lane. Here you go, guys.
Okay, it's certainly a bold take. Go on.
Okay, so I would actually describe myself as a NALCS like historical expert, right? Because there's basically none of them, right? And here's a little crazy one for you, Zaboutine, but with some respect in place. A lot of people don't know this. In 2013 summer, Balls is probably the biggest carry player on C9. I didn't say he specifically, I mean carry. Sneaky, by the way, isn't actually the primary carry. Sneaky becomes the primary carry of C9 in summer 2014. And the summer of 2013, the split they win, and the spring of 2014, it's actually Balls and Meteos who are basically the carries, and then High is like the shot calling most important player, right? So if you actually this might be like where the GOAT thing comes from, it, right? I think Balls being the best top laner and the primary carry of those teams, you know, the bus driver on those like teams, I think that's more important than being like a passenger of any other. Like, for example, a name you didn't mention, Dyrus, right? Dyrus was the ultimate like passenger, as in like he would allow any different formations of like teammates to carry him. But I think Dyrus was literally only TSM's best player for a very short period of time, which was like the early spring of 2013, okay, where it was that the season 2 to season 3 transition where he would play like Vladimir top with like the Wraith jungle stuff, right? But I think Balls being the best player for that period on C9 is probably better than anything that anyone says. The reason it's such a good hot take, though, is it's so revolting to admit, and it shows such the barren nature of top lane talent in that region, that like you actually begin to just forget, oh yeah, Hune isn't actually American, Impact isn't actually American.
I just want to add something. It's because of Balls, there was no Fearless back then. And I think he was playing Rumble when he was like mad OP, and whenever he got a Rumble, he would carry the game. I think it's much harder to be like outstanding nowadays than it was in the past for that reason.
And remember, that was back when you had 3 bans. So the other reason why Balls got the Rumble all day long is because you were banning like Meteos and Highs shit. Yeah, exactly. True.
Like Kassadin had to be permabanned in 2013, and then Zed had to be permabanned, then Lucian. But here's one thing I will give you, right? And this is I think he's the hardest player to rate in these conversations is Honser, because, and I will say that, right? Honser has a very long period of being like probably the 3rd best, 4th best player on TSM, but it does sneak that 2017 spring period where he was the carry Honser fake period with like Wild Turtle, where he does win without double lift, and he does like get it done. And I think Honser is slightly underrated because he also has the 2015 period beforehand where he's not on TSM, when he's on Gravity, right? And he's actually still decent there. Like if you go back with hindsight and you're like, okay, I'm going to like rewatch this guy and with the thing, he's actually like better for a lot longer than I think people give him credit for. And I think the thing that goes for Dokla is he done it all at the tail end where it's the most competitive era. But if I'm talking about like bus drivers like winning the game, getting it done from like top lane, I think he probably just falls short for me personally. But if you take modernity and you take about team contributions and just being like on a winning lineup, I can actually agree. Zaboutine, you've opened my eyes to go to Dokla. The light. I was in darkness, but now I'm light. I don't quite agree because I think I've got different metrics, but it's crazy. It does sound mental until you're actually like, holy shit, this region is barren.
No, by the way, the reason I agree with Kira at the end there, the reason it's a good hot take is one, you can make the case for it. And then two, I didn't realise it's obviously how you came up with it. Also, people even missed the gag. He said at the beginning it was for a minor region and then he did edit and he was like, everyone will even miss that gag until they get to the point where I explain it out, which I think is banter in itself. Because I was even thinking, has he been watching VCS or something? Where the fuck are we going now? But then obviously the joke here is, it just makes you realise you're right. Even the shortlist is like, fucking top lane is just poverty in NA, like, it's just recruit. They're just importing people. What is this? Or it's the other problem they have. To be fair, we had a little bit of this in EU too. They obviously also view top lane as the weak side role, and the whole thing in the EU it was mainly mids, but in NA it was all about ADCs, wasn't it? So I do agree. It's not a bad take. For similar reasons to Keyray. Look, you said GOAT technically, not best player. So GOAT can just mean championships and stuff. Like championships, he's got it. He's right up there with all the others in the list. Similar amount of victories, etc. And he has some international runs, that's true. I'm with Kira, though. I also do think, for me, I also think you have to be, like, amazing at your role. And I do think, like, probably Pete Darshan is better in that sense. Haunts is sort of in the middle. Dyrus is more like the weak side player. Balls was, like, a bit weird because he would carry on some picks, but then on some it felt like he was the weak side later in his career, so that's a weird one. So I would say maybe Darshan gets it for the brief period as the top one. To make the case for Dorkler, though, here's a couple of reasons why, though. If you want to actually look how he plays, if you allow within GOAT that you don't have to be like a primary threat on your team, you're more like a role player. I do think as a role player, what he has done, this is why you probably brought the topic up, is mega. Like, people forget this. Think about the finals and the championships he's won now, and I understand the following two facts. He wasn't supposed to be on either of those teams. On 100 Thieves, he was the fucking coach. They had Sniper as the top laner. You don't even remember that guy existed, you guys. Like a mad little prodigy type player. It just didn't work out, unfortunately. So he had to stand in like old man Dorkler, and then they made the finals when they were not even supposed to be in the mix anymore. Then this year, remember, they were trying to get the guy who sounds like the Arsenal player. They were trying to get a Korean player to be the top laner, and he couldn't get the visa, and it just got fucked up in the end. So Dorkler had to play, and then they fucked around and just won the splits. Like, this is insane. And then, as pointed out, he actually got his big career turnaround on the CLG that became NRG, right? What's funny is what he did on that team. I actually think the thing that's missed, you'll like this angle, Zaboutine. I think that team is why he became this dope top laner, as opposed to back in when he was playing at your team, he was trying to be like a carry and trying to his picks and stuff. I'll tell you why you'll like this angle, because people forget that his positional coach on NRG was Soaz. And I can tell you what, it worked. I can tell Dorkler listened, because Dorkler became a player like Soaz, where one, he can play the weak side, but he does it like really veteran savvy. What a smart player. Notice he has a great mindset, even if he's behind or he's playing a better top player like a Thanatos. Mate, he can handle it. He doesn't like get himself bullied. And then also, like Soaz, he's also like got like a bit of sort of like veteran nous for how you play the map and what you do in the game. I think it looks to me like that was a great pairing. Like, that's like some student who actually listened to the fucking professor and took the notes and asked the questions. So I think that's dope in itself. And then, yeah, he was never supposed to be in these teams. So I do think, pretty sweet. I'll tell you one thing I can say right now. He might be the GOAT overperformer from the NA region. It's unbelievable, his career, isn't it? Like, he's got all the championships in the world and all the national spots at the end when he shouldn't even have been in the game. I mean, the joke is he wouldn't even be playing right now. He would be like watching an episode of this show instead. So I think it's a cool angle. As I pointed out, though, you did do the Peter Dunn thing there, where it's like, this player over here, one of your boys. Yeah, my boy. But I think he's actually better than people think. So, yeah, no shit, you do, of course.
You got to do it. He also scalped Ben. You know what I mean? He's got a scalp. He did actually outplay and solo kill Ben multiple times.
That is true. That's one thing to have on top.
What a world.
Some people can't say they beat Ben in lane.
That is true.
But don't click it. That's all I'm going to say.
That is true. All right, then. What is your take, Kira?
So, you know what I mean? I liked my Vitality one so much last week.
Oh, yeah, by the way, you know what, Zaboutine? I even said the fatal flaw of his take was that they're not going to 0-3 to... I just said they wouldn't lose. They're not going to lose to Giant X. They also 0-3 to that. Like, the worst thing about I hated it when I saw something, because I realised as well, not only is he right, but he's been made the most right ever by the universe. They even went 0-6. Like, it's even worse. Like, how is this possible? Fair enough. Yeah, we'll give you this one. You win this one, Kira. Right. You win this one. So, that was a good take.
I've been enjoying these ones that can manage.
I also can't believe I got tricked by a humanoid again. I was never even a humanoid fan, and I fell for it again. Whatever. It's all good. It's all good.
So, these ones that can be proven in the short time, okay? I think BLG are going to be eliminated in round 2 of MSI. So they're going to go down into the lower bracket, win
Okay.
one series, and then be eliminated. They're going to be that they're out of that's and that's what's going to happen with BLG.
Why?
What? Okay, so if you, I was speaking about it on Discord with a lot of people. Their opening game, they're going to draw T1 in the opening bracket of the MSI, and I think T1's going to beat them. I think T1's going to beat them in the opening game.
By the way, when he says that, he's not I believe it's already confirmed that whoever wins the play and plays BLG, basically, right?
Basically, yeah, that's their reward. And I think T1 are going to are one of these people who like heat up in the tournament, and them getting to play play-ins is actually good for them because it's T1. As in, like, they'll heat up into the match, right?
Okay.
And by the way, I don't believe in the whole thing of like, oh, everyone gets like heated up or like gets better as tournaments go on. I actually think some teams get like worse.
I think most teams get worse. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think, but I do believe in ring rust, right? And I do believe in like the teams that heat up. And T1 faker teams all heat up as tournament. The longer they keep in the tournament, the harder they are to put out of it, right? And I think specifically the fact that they get to go through play-ins is really bad for BLG, right? And they're almost certainly going to draw them. And the second one is they then are most likely going to play against another like drop down seed, and the other drop down seed is most likely going to be like either like Hamwa, T1 again, Top Esports, and I think the worst one that they can get is like G2 or like Lions or something.
Okay.
If they like win their like opening game, right? And I actually think obviously outside of it being like Lions or some like fucking Brazilian team because they like the draw, I think a lot of those teams will all beat them. I actually think one of my biggest problems with like BLG is basically as like a team, they've almost shown very little like development. They are so reliant on Knight and Bin as individual like laners and stuff. And for me, Viper really hasn't come into this team. The most activated I've seen Viper in this team was basically like the grand final versus TES. And if you know anything about TES, anyone can beat TES in a final. It's actually if you don't beat TES in a final, it meant Knight was on the team. That's the caveat. Would you call it? So I've got a lot of like big question marks, and I just don't think once you get to MSI in the new patch, Knight and Bin are going to be able to extract as much like value. The other like really like dangerous like thing, I know we were talking about it here with like June and On, okay, being at like their best, and I do agree they are like much improved, particularly within their own dynamic of like playing together. I just think this tournament is terrible for like June again. In terms of like I know at first stand, he was like, everyone would say, well, Skumon's this good, and then Jun beats Skumon. Like, Jun's actually like, the best jungler. My problem is I actually think Jun's, of all the elite junglers, has gotten the worst over the period. And going into like MSI, I actually think it's like a bit of a bogey like matchup. Like, I think Skumon, I think Inspired, Owner, Kanave, I think all of them look better than him. I think the only person that doesn't look better than are the obvious and like Tian. And I even think like outside of probably like game 5 and like the final, I think Yike was like really, really good into like Skumond and even had like really good games on like Vi and shown that like that was like an actual credible takeaway, rare like stuff. So and for me, specifically at internationals, and if you've ever seen BLG doing well at internationals, a lot of it is to do with like Jun and On being able to, because Knight is basically always money, but them actually winning like games. And if you go and look at BLG when they're in harem scarum mode, it's always when like Jun and On can like be like shut down. I could like, there's a couple other things like Viper On, I think just isn't like an elite lane dynamic. I actually think people just say they're elite because
of the names. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right? But if you actually just look at them as a duo, they were losing to WE's bot lane, they basically lost to almost every bot lane, apart from when Gala choked a little bit in the lower bracket. They two together just really aren't at the amount of like bad trades that Viper ends up taking and dodgy recalls that he has to end up taking because On just wants to get out onto the map. You've seen was it you, Zaboutine? I don't know if you tweeted it out. Like Viper's just randomly in River against like a full globals comp against anyone's legend when it's like Pantheon Shen and he's playing Caitlyn. He's just standing in the middle of River, like the only place on the map not to be. Like, and he's just standing there on the top of a ward. There's just so many weird things. Like, that to me is like instant red flag. Because like a team like T1, they're not going to just kill you once if you're doing that. They're going to kill you like once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So it gets really, really dicey for me. And I'm not even doing it just to be like a doomer. I'll come happily on shows and be like, yeah, I think BLG are just going to beat everyone. Knight's going to take scalp. But I'm actually really worried like about this like team because they look to me that they've kind of like rested on their laurels a little bit.
That is a tricky take, but it isn't a bad one. I feel like there is a lot of factors that are like invisible to the people's eye. Especially, I think one thing you've mentioned that's very important is the patch, because I think the meta has been extremely consistent, even if you take Last Worlds to kind of now. We've had this kind of turn towards enchanters and range. Everybody is playing kind of range the whole time during Spring Split, and now we are back on more melee. I think melee are gonna be the first choice. We're gonna have to go to game 4, game 5 to start seeing enchanters again. And I think, for instance, players like Delight will be extremely happy to have the Rakan back and the Rail back and being able to just like press buttons. These players specifically, I think, is one of the best engaged support, but he doesn't have the whole kit. But yeah, in such case, it can be hard. And then Keria is gonna play anything, so it's already like the support matchup can be hard, because I think that one of the thing that has made BLG that strong this year is two factors. I would say it's the same factor for 3 players. It's the flexibility of their players. The fact that Ben has been extremely good at punishing ranges because he's the best Jax of all time. So you can't just pick Varus and hope for the best. It doesn't work. You have a Knight that can kind of take the L and just play Galio every game, just play the game. And then you have On, who can take the flexed Anivia top to the support and just, shuffle the draft, making BH extremely hard to play against. I think that Riot has taken a step back from this like extremely flexible game where every pick can be flexed to a solo lane. And if we go back to a more traditional way of playing where supports are engaging and top laners are bruisers and things like this, yes, Bin's still going to be ahead, but I think the jungle support might have trouble. And I would say the same for Skumon, actually. I think what's true for Shun might be true for Skumon, because I think if he has to play Aftershock jungles, it's going to be hard for him too.
Okay.
Because I don't think he's that good on Aftershock junglers, whereas I think that Aftershock junglers, for instance, Owner is really good at it. I think Canav is really good at it. So there is a huge risk for BLG that the whole baseline of gameplay that they've worked on for the last 7 months is they're still as good and probably the best team in the world at doing it, but the win condition might have shifted towards something else. And if they draw T1 and they can't find answers, or they just cannot find their pace in the tournament, and yeah, as you said, I don't know, there is an upset, and I don't know, G2 beats HLE or something, and they have to play HLE in the second round, I would assume, I mean, very unlikely, but I'm just supposing, they would be extremely hard for them to recover from a straight loss, especially, as you said, T1 coming with like, I don't know, like 3 OBO5s, so full power, diesel. You say diesel, right? Like the engine that goes like stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
Diesel, yeah. Like they are diesel. So I believe they can get even like 3-0'd in the first round, kind of tilt, and then they go in the second series. They tried something in drafts. Game 1's lost. Game 2 is better because Ben has his pick or Knight does something extraordinary. They lose game 3, and then suddenly it's weird, and then they get eliminated. I like your take. I'm gonna be on your side, Kira.
Okay. I don't hate it, and here's why. It's actually not out of the universe. Even though, look, I wouldn't have picked WE to be the team that beat them. But actually, there's a reason why, no matter how well they've played, I have never overhyped BLG this year. Like, I didn't come in the first night, they should win it. Because again, I need to see them not fail against Gen.G if they play them. Even in the playoffs, like, the worst thing about BLG is, even though the roster is much better than the one they had last year with, like, Beishwan and that ridiculous shit, and Bin was playing like shit, at the same time, though, they still have a tiny bit of the same quality as a team, though, which is, I'm amazed how many times they actually lose just from like fundamental plays on the map. It's unbelievable. They still do. If no one saw, I mentioned this on some of the Insight, one of the things that in a way is cool if it's a movie or an anime, but isn't that cool in real life, is if you saw when they lost game 1 of the final of first stand to G2, there's a screenshot from the voice comms where Jun just says, just outplay them with your hands. That's dope in an anime, right? Because that's like some fucking like, take off the weights, Rocky, like, and then you just... The problem is that's not actually a way to play League of Legends, though. Like, spoiler, if your whole thing is you just have to be much better individually than the other team all the time, then you can see the obvious fail condition. If ever you turn up and aren't better, or God forbid, by the way, one of your players gets outplayed by the other, then you lose. You just lose. You don't have the way to play like outthinking them, outmaneuvering them, just doing things that are efficient and economic. If there's anything, by the way, I'd say about a lot of Knight teams in history, they're incredibly inefficient. They do just play like crazy power League of Legends, which at its peak looks unbeatable, but the second it starts getting beaten, the cracks just appear everywhere. It looks really bad. And that's why the floor can be crazy bad. And sometimes they've been internationals where they came in as a top seed and didn't have any relevance. So, but with that said, here's where I understand this is in the context that he already overcooked the fucking Vitality take and got away with it. He's not getting away with it this time, boys. I'm with him. There's definitely a world T1 could win. I'll give you that one. But in the lower bracket, nah. Here's the thing. They're not losing in the lower bracket and getting done that early, mate. They're still making the lower bracket run and probably coming third or fourth or something. You know, they're not really getting... Because here's the reason why. Because there's double a limb. That's my problem. Like, put it this way. If you wanted to make this take in a way spicier, fuck MSI. If you want to say that at Worlds, they could even have won every other tournament and come into Worlds and then bomb Worlds in like the quarterfinal. Yeah, I'm with you there. If it's single a limb and they get the wrong opponent in like even the quarters, there's a bunch of teams that probably don't even win Worlds that could beat them. I could say even LPL teams might even be able to beat them. I'm with you on that one. And also, I'm sorry, the reason why, this is why actually the first take wasn't that bad, the fan one. I do think as much as the name value was crazy, this name value wise, if you look relative to who the players are, looks comparable to that Gen.G 2023 lineup. It's crazy. It's like, holy shit. The problem is this. Even though at first stand, every casual fan knows they were insane, some of those players did take a bit of a dip when they went back to the LPL. Like, even Bin didn't have every game insane, you know. You had some that were mega. I think Viper was actually just flat out shit some of the time they split. On was really, really good. Junat was up and down. Like, he had his own little, like, moment in the middle of the split where he had a few games that were dodgy. Still pretty good. I think actually a lot of the game has evolved along. Like, win condition 1, I get scared here because a lot of Chovy teams have this. Win condition 1, Knight is always the best mid laner in the game. Bro, that can't be a win. No one has to have that. That's unreasonable as a win condition. So I already, God forbid, Knight ever like has a bad game against someone good. It can happen. They can lose the game. So no, I'm sort of with you on this one. I do think this is a hard one. And then also, I'll just add in, I do think people will overrate first stand primarily because... Mate, a lot of junglers, I think, just learned, like, holy shit, you have to play differently against this Jun guy. Surely everyone's prepped for that now. Surely everyone's watched the fucking replays. Surely everyone sees that, like, yes, he's going to be a fucking demon in the early game. The thing is, there's ways to offset that. There just are. And I trust the LCK coaches to come with a game plan. They can play. In fact, I'll even add this one last detail. A rare time Thorin will ever invoke the draft. Hasn't the LCK road to MSI just showed how powerful doing scaling drafts is right now in League? That's a fucking brilliant way to offset the early power of BLG and make them have to go into a game where they're at even strength late game when they team fight you. They're one of those teams where they just fight all the time and then beat you at the end by having the scaled up team from the items and the levels. So, no, I don't hate the take, as in it could happen. Bear in mind, they're probably the number one favourite right now, or joint favourite with HLE. I think it's a good hot take. I just don't think it'll happen. And also, I hope it doesn't happen. I'll just put that last. All right, last take is going to be mine then. And I've actually crafted mine very carefully. The non-hot take version would be this. I actually think that the real problem Gen.G has is their fucking coach. I don't know if it actually is Ryu, but whoever does the drafting in this team, bro, this kills me, Kira, because I think actually in past years they were very good at drafting often Gen.G because they know how to use all the pieces. They had also some of the best tools to use. This year, their drafting looks terrible. Like, some of the shit they're doing, I think actually actively handicaps. If you just think of this T1 series they just had, right, bro, the Game 5 is an absolute travesty. It is a war crime. Like, this is a fucking series where scaling draft wins and you've drafted the, like, lol, we win in 20 minutes draft. Like, what? And then you've let Canyon draft Nidalee. Bro, that Gen.G Canyon isn't the Nidalee player, mate. That's years ago. That's fucking damn one Canyon. He was one of the best ever to do that. He could draft that and lose, and I'd be like, not your fault. You're a stud, homie. That guy is gone, mate. He may as well be dead at this point in time. He's just wearing a skin suit of Canyon going, I'm Canyon. It's like, that's just a fucking demon with a mask on. What is that? That's not even... So I don't know why you're drafting that. That's like, to me, that's a total misjudging of your players. And then, so here's the sexy version, though. Just to say their coach sucks isn't enough, but I do think the coach is the biggest problem. Here's where I'll make it a hot take. If I coached Gen.G, they would be at MSI and they would win it. And here's why. Because first of all, actually Chovy has been mega this split. Just because unfortunately Gen.G wasn't number one, people haven't noticed it. Because people are used to, I'm sure if Chovy's good, then they must be number one and win like 20 games and lose 3. So, no, actually, he's been mega. He has forced through so many wins, Knight-esque, funnily enough, that were ridiculous. Then you look elsewhere on their team. Keen is still fucking awesome. Ruler's a bit iffy, certainly not on Viper's level of disaster class. And actually, if people don't know, by the end of the split, I actually do think they got generally most of the players back online. Canyon's been a bit whatever, but he's always been like that in Gen.G. Generally now, I think they still have a really strong team. I genuinely thought before this T1 series that they were going to win that game. I thought they would beat whoever, Animal Life or T1. They'll just win that game. And then I think if they went to MSI, mate, I think this team actually has the pieces to beat any team ever. I think they can beat the LPL teams. They can match them all. So I actually think this is actually, even though in past years you would just say it was like psychology at Worlds that failed them. I actually think this year they've just done a really bad job coaching the squad they have. And I think if you're a coach, the reason why it's criminal is this is like one of those dream rosters. You get handed this roster, you're supposed to win everything, mate. Like this is supposed to be where even if you win everything, people might not say you're the GOAT because they might just go, look at all the pieces you had though. You had the best players. So and as people know, I'm about 5 minutes from just changing my thing to like, actually, you're wrong. I was wrong, guys. Rookie isn't the best player ever because Chovy is. Like, I think Chovy's like ready for that. He's had enough years at the top. So I want to see what you get. Look, obviously the me coaching thing's more like, I just think they should have fixed these things. I think they should have done things like they should have drafted like fucking scaling comps. They should have just played through the solo lanes. What was the last one? They should basically ban Canyon from doing old school damn one shit. Yeah, that's it. That's my take. I think it's actually. I don't blame players. I blame the coaches for this one. Thoughts?
I want to double down on that. I think it's a very interesting point. I think you should coach. No, more serious. I
was like, Zaboutine, you didn't realize what you just admitted to me. I want to double down. Zaboutine actually wants to be the analyst with you, Thorin.
Exactly.
I want to say something that I have a take. When I watch and I co-stream, I say usually in Game 5, if you look at the Western teams, the scaling always win. Yep. And when you look at the Eastern team, the early game pressure wins most of the time. And Gen.G has usually edged T1 specifically with like this needly draft. And that's where like coaching is for me criminal. Because the whole thing about coaching, at least from my experience, is to read the fucking room. You see that it is a messy series, that your players are doing hectic plays, no one's holding their spells, everybody's playing very spontaneously, there is a lot to lose, a lot of emotions are at stake. You see that there is a lot of frustrations, like players are very, very stressed and frantic. So if you see that your players are extremely composed and they stomp game 1, and then, I don't know, something happened, you just lose a smite fight in game 2, you lose game 2, you storm game 3. And then game 4, you just miss the draft. Okay, you end up in game 4, but your guys are just playing, it's just another scream, it's just another game versus T1, we're gonna beat them. It wasn't that series. Read the room. You clearly see with your eyes, for anyone who has seen the series, it wasn't a standard Gen.G versus T1 series. There was way more at stake than that. In that scenario, the thing of just saying pick your champion, you're gonna win, you got it, is dog shit coaching. That's not what you should do. You should prevent your players from falling back into their comfort, because the series isn't a series that's played with the Gen.G you coach every day. It's the Gen.G that's afraid of losing against T1 for the first time in a million years. Right. And then for that reason, you should ask the question back to T1. You want to scale? We're going to outscale you. Can you snowball us? Because you want to give us the initiative. We give it back to you. We give back the discomfort of having to snowball back to you. And then we'll see who's the best at scaling, because teamfight-wise, my players are the best in the world. But Ryu hasn't read that room, and he was just pick Renekton Nidalee, guys, just like in Screams. Meaning he has completely missed the point. And it's not even like the way the draft, we could analyze the draft, but I think the biggest criminal part of that is, I think that any player, and really like a gold player, and that's why I don't know what's your rank, Thorin, but a gold player would just come and say, just pick Ornn, Jinx, and Azir. And we'll see. We'll see in late game, or Ori and so. And we'll see in late game. And if Keria snowballed with Kalista supports, be it. good luck at MSI, you earned it. But the fact that Ryu hasn't read the room and looked at this player and just thought it was another day at the job, I think is a enormous mistake in terms of coaching. And the draft of Game 5, when I looked at the draft, because I did the review of the whole series on my channel, I was lost for hope. I was like, what the hell is that shit? And I am so disappointed because I do believe that, Gen.G, I had this hot take I wanted to do, like Gen.G is probably still the best team in the world right now. Why not being at MSI? I went for the
that's
Doka
why.
one.
That's why I basically did it. I said not only would do. I said they would have won MSI too. I believe it genuinely. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, especially because I think it double elim for Gen.G is the mattress. This is full comfort for them.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, I agree, and I think it's probably one of the biggest coaching. It's the same failure as Karma first pick versus the DRX Game 5. The same level of drafting and coaching mistake.
So here's a really thing I want. It's something. There's narratives that people latch onto really early on, and then they forget about it. I think one of the biggest moves that everyone kind of forgot about is that Mata is now on T1 and not on Gen.G anymore, right? And I think everyone's kind of just memory hold that, right? And the second thing is there are certain players who, if you ask them what they want to play, you should listen to them. So one of the best coaches in the world at doing this is Home. Home's, in my opinion, is terrible at drafting, by the way, right? But what Home's got a superpower at, right, is enabling his star late into draft to play things to win games, okay, for good or bad, right? And you've seen it work 70% of the time throughout his career, and you've seen the disaster class Belveth or Canave worlds, etc. Right? But you die on that sword. You know what I mean? You it works. Okay, for a lot of stuff, right? But there's certain other coaches Crescent who the biggest crime that Crescent ever done was asking Knight what he wants to play. You never ask Knight what he wants to play. You tell Knight he's playing the best champion in the game, because Knight will literally say, oh, whatever the team needs, or Oriana or something, because Knight thinks it's it's the supportive element star, Atlas holding up the world, he can bear the weight, when he should just be enabling him to be the best player in the world. And that's what Denny now does. Denny just lets Knight, the majority of drafts, unless he's playing Galio or something, just be the best player on the server, on the aggregate, right? Gen.G has lost that mojo so much, and they're their drafts have become so directionless. And one of the things that really scares me with this is, and I would love to know this, because Thorn, you're one of the people that went over to Korea in 2014. I would love someone to go over to the Koreans and actually think if they think about League of Legends the same way as we do. I know they don't, right? That's the shorthand of it. If they think about League of Legends and draft the same way we do, and I can almost guarantee they don't, they will have completely different ideas on themes and strategy and stuff like that we just kind of can't really see inside.
I'll give you an example. One thing can tell you right now from talking to a lot of people over the years is a lot of Westerners to this day, I actually think it's one of the things that the commentators do, I think is criminal, here's one area I think that we're completely night and day. Westerners still talk, because it's Riot Games, as if it was the champion, not the player playing the champion. Do you know what I mean? They'll be doing a draft where it'll be some dog shit Western team against some sick LCK team, and they'll be going, well, they've drafted I'll pick a random one for the older, Shyvana here, so I'll be able to get on the back and say, what are you talking? No, they're going to do any of that things though. We don't have a player that's good enough to do that. It won't be able to get off it. They talk like the champions where the power comes from. I actually think Koreans, mate, this is why LS gets so triggered about items. They just think things are OP because the best player plays it. They don't think about the kit. They go oh, you've got to pick that. Because if you notice, how many times have you heard me bitch on Summoning Insight? Not just this example, I'll give you an LPL example, where they'll take Tarzan in Anyone's Legend and put him on the Sejuani or something. It's oh, bro, that's our carry. That's the guy who needs to be on the damage champion. That's the guy who has to have all the agency. I can't have him on the tank. What do we do? So I do think there's an example there. So what were you going with there? Where was this going?
Because the whole point is I think if you ask T1 would have told you in the past, we would describe Ashe and Varus as utility bot laners. Okay. They've got good lane, they've got long range, they've got utility, right? Well, I'm almost certain if you ask T1, they'd be actually they're hard carries. They're actual late game.
Wait, you said T1 twice there, so who was the first team supposed to be?
No, I'm saying they would tell you those champions are
No, here's what I'm confused. You just said if you ask T1, they'd say Ashe and Varus are utility champions.
Oh no, sorry, they're carry champions. They
No.
think of them-
Here's what I'm confused about. You've just given
People
two.
generally assume that
sorry.
Ash and Varus are utility champions,
Right,
while
so not
T1
T1.
think they are carry champions.
So normal people think that Varus
yeah.
and Ash are utility, but T1 thinks they're carries. That's what we're saying, right?
Yeah. Sorry, apologies. Yeah.
Okay.
Like in the West, we consider them that.
Right.
But if you ask T1,
Okay.
I actually think they would be like, oh no, they're actually carry champions.
Right.
Because like them with Guma and the way they draft, the way they would pick
Right,
them, because
okay.
like, and they would say something along the line. I'm just surmising here, like, oh, actually, Varus is a late game champion because you can just catch someone with CC and insta kill them.
Right.
And that's
Right.
they would think about it in like that term, which is it's like a part of their kit, but because like T1's playstyle, which is vision denial, and they want to be able to just grab someone and insta kill them, they think about the champion in that way.
Okay.
So it's like when you seen like Zaboutine was saying like just pick something where you can just press buttons and be able to like kill something. Gen.G picked like MF, right? But the way Ruler was playing it, he was playing it like it was like Jinx or something, where like he wasn't prioritizing the ultimate being the most important part of the champion, but he was thinking about it all in terms of auto attacks rather than like getting like this really good ultimate off. So I was like, there must be like a disparity, and there would need to be an investigation. I think Ryu was legit criminal. It was one of the like worst drafted series on the planet, and this is the last bit of frustration. When you have the flexibility like Gen.G, and they have the most flexible rosters in terms of like the depth of all their solo laners and all the people they have on their team, the fact that you like end up in these like draft knots and you actually get like basically like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submitted by T1, the fault can only lie somewhere. Like, and they don't even show it. Like, we're all sitting here. How many times have you ever seen like Chovy and Keen actually abuse like their flex picks? I think I've seen it on
Very
Rise
rarely.
once.
Very rarely.
And those guys like share Jace. They share so many different things. They even share like
Chovy plays
Victor.
Aatrox mid and Urgot mid because he started
exactly.
like this, right?
Exactly. Like, and Keen's the best Victor top player ever. As in like, and
He's the best mage player top with Shao.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah, exactly. So like, what? And they don't even express this bit of their identity. And do they even believe in that part of themselves? Like, do they even know that that is part of their identity? So it's a complete bewilderment to me. And I actually think if there was a coach not there, not talking to the players, and the players just picked the champs for themselves outside of Canyon, you would actually end up with a better draft in Game 5 than what they had.
Leave it
You
there.
could be the coach, Thorin. I think you could be the coach.
Okay.
You could do it. You could do it.
I mean, by the way, the reason I also picked that one,
Follow
if
your
you
dreams.
notice, is I didn't pick it to imply I'm a great coach. I basically implied I think the team's so cracked that if you just essentially get out of the way and don't let them fall into certain pitfalls and just do almost like Game of Legends win rates, I think you'd actually win the fucking match. Like, it's a rare example of a team I think you don't need to coach as much.
Oh,
A babysitter would just win. Seriously,
Yeah.
just a babysitter would just win. It's like, oh, you got it. What do you want to play? Oh, I'm afraid. Okay, pick a champion that you're sure you win. Is the dragon that scales good? Just pick scaling. It's gonna be fine. That's it. You've done the
Yes.
job.